Welcome to IPMWORKS e-learning modules. My name is Simon from Ilvo in Belgium. This video is part of Module 8, Soft Skills for Facilitating Interactive Learning and Demonstration on IPM. And I will present Chapter 4, Talking of IPM within Farmer Groups. Why talk about learning? People learn when they acquire new information and skills to improve a situation or to adapt to a new situation. In the context of integrated pest management, each farmer has to design a complex combination of interacting practices, adapted to a specific farm situation and to uncertain factors like area-wide ecologies, changing climate, or fluctuating markets. Learning is a constant process in such uncertain and changing situations. Therefore, farmers have a constant need for knowledge adapted to local situations, for practical examples, and for applicable information. That is why farmers, for example, experiment, share experiences, search for advice, visit demonstrations, and read agricultural magazines. People learn in many different ways and from many different sources. In order to support farmers in their learning on integrated pest management, we must understand how they learn and what their learning needs are. One way to learn is to transform experience into knowledge. This experience to knowledge process is known in theory as experiential learning and consists of 5 steps. People can learn from their own experiences, but also from their experiences. Therefore, people need to share and discuss their experiences. In good conversations, people help each other to go through these 5 steps, and by questioning each other and by sharing information. In reality, these steps mostly happen unconsciously and in an iterative way, an unstructured way. But for a facilitator, it can be useful to moderate discussions in a structured way based on these steps to be sure that all farmers had the opportunity to learn something from the group. These steps are, first, a retrospect. You need to share or create an experience on which you can reflect. Following, you need to be critical. You question the experience to see if there are problems or new kinds of information in the presented situation. The analytical step is to make sure that you understand the situation and its problems or successes. In the following step is the rational step. You search for possible explanations or solutions. And in the last personal step, you consider solutions in your own situation. I will now explain these steps with examples of farmer groups in the IPMWORKS project. The first step. Here you can see an example of a field walk. Farmers can point to what they observe. They can see how the crops are doing, and if they can spot pests, disease, or weeds, they can show it to each other. Farmers are in need of practical information and applied knowledge. They want to see practices applied in the field and hear the experiences from other farmers. Experiential learning starts from a real-life experience or from a testimony. Therefore, it is important to go in-field, to monitor what is happening in the field, to go scouting together, to create opportunities for the visitors to really experience the situation, and to make time for the host farmer and for the visitors to share their problems and describe their own situations. In the next step, I'll show you the example of the experimental farm of Inago, where they planted different varieties of zucchini. The harvest of one moment of the different varieties was presented in crates, so that the farmers could see the harvest and the quality of the zucchinis. Afterwards, we walked through the fields with the different varieties, and farmers could ask the field manager what his opinion was of the different varieties based on his own experiences. At this stage, the situation, the problems, and the applied practices are questioned. Understand the situation by comparing it with one's own situation. Is there new information, or is there information missing? What do and don't we know? This could also happen during a workshop to come to a collective year planning of a group or of a program. After this critical step comes the analytical step. Here what we see is the hub coach who asked to put traps in each of the farm to monitor the presence of Suzuki fly in raspberries and to bring the different traps to the meeting. The hub coach had put up a table with petri dishes and examples on how to recognize the males and the females, so the farmers could count the Suzukis in their own traps. Afterwards, she explained how the Suzuki develops and harms the raspberries. Farmers shared their experiences on the damage they had on their farms, when this happened and how the damage became visible. Then the hub coach explained that the Suzuki can, for example, survive in waste material of the plants that are collected into compost bins. One of the farmers reacted surprised and said that he always put his waste in one bin. This might be a part of his Suzuki problems that could be resolved by just understanding how Suzuki survives and develops. In the analytical step, the farmer tries to understand what caused the problems or what caused the successes of a good example. It is important for IPM to understand the life cycle of a pest, plague, disease, or weed, to understand how it develops, how it interacts with the crops, and how it spreads. The development of problems needs to be framed in the agroecological context, meaning how the development and spreading of the pest is made possible or impossible through the agronomic practices and the ecological situation these practices create. This knowledge is the basis to go to preventive or specific curative solutions. Following the rational step. In this case, the farmer is explaining how he developed a precision weeding machine, for what purposes he developed it, when he can use it, how much it had cost, and his experiences of the efficiency of the machine. In order for a farmer to find a solution to a problem or to improve the current practice, other farmers need to share what they do or would do in the presented situation. Farmers can compare their crop and farm management plans and explain which different practices they implemented, how these practices interact, and why they are adapted to a specific situation and context. This collection of possible solutions or best practices should be framed within the IPM principles in order to see which kind of options are presented and which options of the IPM principles are still missing. Then at last, the personal step. In the Swiss pesticide program, farmers are supported to test different practices. In this situation, the farmer is explaining which practices he tried, how he came to the decision to try these specific practices, why he thinks these do or don't work in his situation. He also explained how these fit in his general crop plan, what risks he took by using these practices, and if he believes or doesn't believe these fit in his personal vision on the management and future of farming. For farmers to consider practices, it is necessary to frame these in the personal context of a farmer and to get the full picture of how certain decisions were taken, which risks were taken, what capacity and resources are needed to implement changes, and why these fit in a farm plan, but also why these fit in a vision on farming. The agronomic, economic, and emotional meaning of a practice or solution needs to be clear. This step focuses on the personal opinion of farmers. So to conclude, farmers can learn from each other's experience, and this learning process can be facilitated to deepen and involve all participants in the learning process. These learning steps can be applied throughout a demonstration, but could also be applied to make up a year planning, where different steps match different activities like expert webinars, workshops on farm management plans, etc. So in your following activities, please consider following IPM facilitation checklist. First, retrospect. Go in the fields. Show and take sufficient time for the host farmer to testimony and for the other farmers to also share their experiences. Be critical. Question the problems and opportunities of the field or the farm you're visiting. Ask how this situation differs or resembles the other farmers' situations. Be analytical. Understand the biology of the problem and how it interacts with the agroecological situation. Bring in expert information and try to visualize. Be rational. Collect all experiences and ideas of the farmers on how to prevent and cure crop damage. Frame options in farm management and crop plans and define them as one of the IPM principles. And at last, be personal. Make sure that the how, the when, the where, and the why of practices is clear. Ask for personal opinions on why certain practices would or wouldn't fit in another situation. What would be the barriers or opportunities for changes on different farms? I thereby come to the end of my presentation, and I thank you very much for listening.